श्रीनामभित्यवतु वाग्देव्यै नमः। यच्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोऽभ्योऽभ्यमृताः सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणम् जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवम् ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पीडितः श्रुतं मेवोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। मेधादेवी जुषमाणानादा विश्वाची भद्रा सुमनस्यमाना त्वया दुष्टा रुदमाना गुरुक्ता बृहद्वदेव विदते सुवीराः त्वया दुष्टऋषिर्भवति देहि त्वया ब्रह्मा गतः श्रीरुदत्वया त्वया दुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वद्रविनो न मेघे मेघां महीन्द्रो ददातु मेघां देवी सरस्वती मेघां मे अश्विनामुभावा दत्तां पुष्करस्य च अप्सरासु चया मेघा गन्धर्वेषु चयन्मनः दैवी मेघा सरस्वती सामां मेघा सुरभिर्जुषताय स्वाहा मेघा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगतीजगम्या ओजस्वती पयसा बिम्बमाना सामां मेघा सुप्रतीका दुषन्तां मयि मेघां मयि प्रजां मयि अग्निस्तेजो ददातु मयि मेघां मयि प्रजां मयि इन्द्र इन्द्रियं ददातु मयि मेघां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो प्राजो ददातु हंस हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सहस्रशीर्षं देवं विश्वाक्षं विश्वशम्भुवम् विश्वं नारायणं देवमक्षरं परमं पदम् विश्वतः परमान् नित्यं विश्वं नारायणं हरिम् विश्वमेवेदं पुरुषस्तद्विश्वमुपजीवति हरिं विश्वस्यात्मेश्वरगुं शाश्वतगुं शिवमच्युतम् नारायणं महाज्ञेयं विश्वात्मानं परायणम् नारायणपरो ज्योतिरात्मा नारायणः परः नारायणपरं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं नारायणः परः नारायणपरो ध्यानं नारायणः परः यच्च किञ्चित् जगत् सर्वं दृश्यते श्रूयतेऽपि वा अन्तर्बहिष्यतः सर्वं व्याप्य नारायणः स्थितः अनन्तमव्ययं कलिलं समुद्रेऽन्तं विश्वशम्भुवम् पद्मकोशप्रदीघाशरुं हृदयं चाप्यधोमुखम् अधोनिष्ट्यामितस्यान्तेनाभ्यामुपरि तिष्ठति ज्वालमालाकुलं भाति विश्वस्यायतनं महत् सन्ततगं शिलाभिस्तुलं वक्त्यकोशसन्निधम् तस्यान्ते सुचिरगं सूक्ष्मं तस्मिन् सर्वं प्रतिष्ठितम् तस्य मध्ये महानग्निर्विश्वाद्यर्विश्वतोमुखः सोऽग्रबुद्धिमयं तिष्ठन्नाहारमजरकलिः तिर्यघोरघोरमदशायी रश्मयस्तस्य सन्तता सन्तापयति स्वं देहमापादतलमस्तकः तस्य मध्ये मन्निशिखा व्यवस्थितः नीलतो यतमध्यस्था विद्युल्लेखे भवास्वरा नीवारशोकवत्तन्वी पीतामास्वत्यनोपमा तस्याश्रिताया मध्ये परमात्मा व्यवस्थितः स ब्रह्म स शिवः स हरिस्येन्द्रः सोऽक्षरः परमस्वराट् कृतलं सत्यं परं ब्रह्म पुरुषं कृष्णपिङ्गलम् ऊर्ध्वरेतं विरूपाक्षं विश्वरूपाय वै नमो नमः नारायणाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु
स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ओम यथाग्निर्दाहिका शक्ति रामकृष्णे स्थिता धिया सर्वविद्या स्वरूपां तां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहम्। ओम परतत्वे सदा लीनो रामकृष्ण समज्ञा यो धर्म स्थापनरतो वीरेशं तं नमाम्यहम्। Dear friends, good morning. We have gathered here to celebrate the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. As we have this tradition that we also should contemplate the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda on the birth anniversary of him. So what is the purpose? The purpose is simple. Our mind is like crystals. When we bring a red rose near a crystal, it looks red. Or anything, whatever yellow, if it is yellow color, so it looks like that. Our mind is like that. Whatever is close, it looks like it is like that. So most of the time, we are engaged in the world. And world is reflected in our mind. As we come closer to divine character, we imbibe those characters. This is the purpose of this meeting. Now, as you have seen the advent of Sri Ramakrishna, in what condition, and also his chief disciple, Swami Vivekananda, how he came closer. He came and met Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Vivekananda, as we know, he was a character who is uncompromising. He can sacrifice anything and everything for the sake of truth. Search of truth, that is important in his life. He even did not believe in idolatry, did not believe in the traditional ways. That's why he joined Brahmo Samaj. And gradually, so it's a long story, so I'm not going to tell you the whole story. Our other speakers will highlight some of the aspects of his life. But what we want to say that he came in contact with Sri Ramakrishna. And he recognized him as Narayana. Narayana came to this world to emancipate, to uplift this world. So it is a revelation how in a short life, less than 40 years, 39 and few months, 39 years and few months, he lived his life in this world. And he gave something which is centuries to be digested. And the question comes, is it relevant what he taught in today's scenario? It is very much. I'll give you a little example. He was breaker of bondage. Breaker of bondage. So breaker of bondage, what it means, I'll quote from Sister Nivedita. This is very important. So Swami Vivekananda came when he came to the Chicago. In front of him was audience who was well trained in Western science, Western culture. But behind him was the age-old tradition of India. And Swamiji drew his inspiration from three sources. First, his own Guru, Sri Ramakrishna, who embodied the culture and also spiritual tradition of India. So Guru. And then Gita. Gita means all the scriptures. Not only what Sri Ramakrishna taught, but it is based in the scriptures of the Vedantic Vedas and also subsequent scriptures. And the third is Ganga. Ganga here means the eternal flow of a culture, of a religion, of spiritual ways. That was his country. So he, after meeting Sri Ramakrishna and when Sri Ramakrishna attained Mahasamadhi, he went to see himself what is the condition of India. And he saw that people were suffering because of ignorance, because of poverty, because of social injustice. So when he came here, he found a different kind of situation here. Here also people were suffering, and spiritual ways only just to go to society, to churches and socializing. So that social injustice, and today also we know lots of talk about it. So what was Swami Vivekananda's contribution there? It is to ponder. Anyway, in front of him was an audience who was Western in nature, Western with Western culture, but behind him was Indian tradition, Indian spirituality. So what was new in him? Sister Nivedita wrote, he becomes the meeting point not only of East and West, but also of past and future. If the many and the one be indeed the same reality, then it is not all modes of worship alone, but equally all modes of work, all modes of struggle, all modes of creation, which are paths of realization. No distinction. Henceforth, between sacred and secular. So he also united sacred and secular. To labor is to break. To conquer is to renounce. Life is itself religion. To have and to hold is as stern as trust as to quit and to avoid. So, in short, he broke many barriers. Now, just I informed that social injustice, here also lots of thinking is going on. What is the solution given by Swami Vivekananda? See here, social injustice, the main point is, one is oppressor, one is oppressed. It is natural that in a family, parents will be there and children inexperienced, they also will be there. So inequality is visible. In a school also you can see teacher and taught. Inequality is visible. But somehow the thought is to show one is oppressor, one is oppressed. It's a very difficult subject, of course. But what Swami said that we have to uplift, we have to educate and uplift. His idea is each soul is potentially divine. There should not be any discrimination, but there is a scope of education. So this is very tricky subject. We have to study carefully Swami Vivekananda. As he taught, each soul is potentially divine. And to manifest this divinity is the goal of life. The goal is to manifest this divinity by controlling nature, external and internal. To do this by work and worship, or psychic control, or knowledge. And philosophy. One or more or all of these and be free. This is the goal of religion. Not only religion, it's the goal of life. To uplift people. So there is a scope of education. So this is an area where we can concentrate. But this is a very tricky subject. So we may not dwell here. But what is important, just to indicate that this life is not irrelevant even from today's topic. It's very much relevant. That's why first we need to understand how Vivekananda, as Narendranath knew, how he developed, what was his message to the world, and we'll see through various speakers how he grew up, how he developed as Swami Vivekananda, and what he gave to this world. So his main idea is to character building and man-making, character building education. Through that, one has to uplift. Then this question of inequality can be resolved. Otherwise, this conflict will go on. This cannot be resolved. So in short, this is the purpose of the study of Swami Vivekananda. Is still relevant, very much relevant. And to know his philosophy, to know his thoughts, we must know his life and how he lived. Because great men impart their education through their lives. And here we'll find through our subsequent speakers how he grew from Narendra to Swami Vivekananda and how he taught the world this great teaching of Vedanta. So now we'll request Toby to start with a song, and then our other speakers will follow.
Fearless and free of doubt, holy and pure art thou. On bended knee I bow to thee, Swamiji. With power and energy, and vision for all to see, you gave away all for free, Swamiji. Swamiji. That you had to do, conquered all with love and truth. You gave us what we cannot lose. Devotion that never died, and wisdom personified. Your praises heard far and wide, Swamiji, Swamiji. And when mother's work is done, the world will all know we're one. Freedom revealed, shining sun, Swamiji. Fearless and free of doubt, holy and pure art thou. On bended knee I bow to thee, Swamiji. With power and energy, and vision for all to see, you gave away all for free, Swamiji, Swamiji. Swamiji. Swamiji.
I request now Susan Jacqueline to read from the epistles of Swami Vivekananda.
Thank you, Swamiji. So I have a treasure in my hands that I want to share with everyone before I start. It's called Letters of Swami Vivekananda. And this just looks like a book, but this is extremely powerful. There's no way you can read from this book and not feel great emotion and love and power. And I just encourage everyone to read this. I'm so sad I only have 5 minutes, but I'll give you a taste. And we do have 1 copy in our bookstore. So I'm going to start. And what I've done is selected a few excerpts. So I'm not reading you a full letter. I'm reading you a few different letters. The first one, and a special thing about this book is you can actually learn a little bit about who these letters were to. So there's an index in the back, it tells you a little bit of backstory. So the first one was for a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. To a knower of Brahman, food comes of itself without effort. He drinks water wherever he gets it. He roams at pleasure everywhere. He is fearless. Sleeps sometimes in the forest, sometimes in a crematorium, and treads the path which the Vedas have taken, but whose end they have not seen. His body is like the sky, and he is guided like a child by others' wishes. He is sometimes naked, sometimes in gorgeous clothes, and at times has only jhana as his clothing. He behaves sometimes like a child, sometimes like a madman, and at other times like a ghoul, indifferent to cleanliness. I pray to the holy feet of our Guru that you may have that state, and you may wander like a rhinoceros. Yours, etc., Vivekananda. This next excerpt is actually the PS. This is just the postscript. And this was to Kamadadas Mitra, who was an inhabitant of Varanasi. And for his profound erudition and piety, Swami Vivekananda had the highest regard. Yes. To no big person am I going any longer. Quote, remain, O mind, within yourself. Go not to anybody else's door. Whatever you seek, you shall obtain by sitting at your ease. Only seek for it in the privacy of your heart. There is the supreme treasure, the philosopher's stone. And he can give whatever you ask for countless gems, O mind, strewn about the portals of his abode. He is the wishing stone that confers boons at the mere thought, end quote. Thus says the poet Kamalakanta. So now the great conclusion is that Ramakrishna has no peer. Nowhere else in this world exists that unprecedented perfection, that wonderful kindness for all that does not stop to justify itself, that intense sympathy for man in bondage. Either he must be an avatara, as he himself used to say, or else the ever-perfected divine man, whom the Vedanta speaks of as the free one, who assumes a body for the good of humanity. This is my conviction, sure and certain, and the worship of such a divine man has been referred to by Patanjali in the aphorism, or the goal may be attained by meditating on a saint. Never during his life did he refuse a single prayer of mine. Millions of offenses he has forgiven me. Such great love even my parents never had for me. There is no poetry, no exaggeration in all this. It is the bare truth, and every disciple of his knows it. In times of great danger, great temptation, I have wept in extreme agony with the prayer, "Oh God, do save me." And no response has come from anybody, but this wonderful saint or avatara or anything else he may be has come to know of all my affliction through his powers of insight into human hearts and has lifted it off, in spite of my desire to the contrary, after getting me brought into his presence. If the soul be deathless, and so if he still lives, I pray to him again and again, O Bhagavan Ramakrishna, thou infinite ocean of mercy and my only refuge, do graciously fulfill the desires of my esteemed friend, who is every inch a great man. May he impart to you all good, he whom alone I have found in this world to be like an ocean of unconditioned mercy. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Please send a prompt reply, yours, etc., Vivekananda. And the last excerpt I'll share with you. This is to Professor J.H. Wright of Boston, who is the person who introduced Swamiji to the Parliament of Religions. Again, an excerpt, a very sweet one. You are great, learned, and holy. I dare not preach to you or your wife, but to your children, I quote these passages from the Vedas. The four Vedas, sciences, language, philosophy, and all other learnings are only ornamental. The real learning, the true knowledge, is that which enables us to reach Him, who is unchangeable in His love. How real, how tangible, how visible is He, through whom the skin touches, the eyes see, and the world gets its reality. Hearing Him, nothing remains to be heard. Seeing Him, nothing remains to be seen. Attaining Him, nothing remains to be attained. He is the eye of our eyes, the ear of our ears, the soul of our souls. He is nearer to you, my dears, than even your father and mother. You are innocent and pure as flowers. Remain so, and He will reveal Himself unto you. Dear Austin, when you are playing, there is another playmate playing with you who loves you more than anybody else. And oh, he is so full of fun. He is always playing, sometimes with great big balls, which we call the sun and the earth, sometimes with little children like you, and laughing and playing with you. How funny it would be to see him and play with him. My dear, think of it. Thank you.
So which is to say, those who want to catch my fire, read my letters. So these are very important letters. As Swami also indicated, the Paravidya, supreme knowledge, by which all knowledge can be gained. So anyway, this is what we learned from the system. Thank you very much. Next we invite Subhashish Dovai to know how Bilay, small child born in Calcutta, and how he grows to Narendranath his childhood days. So we'll listen from Subhashish Dovai.
Hi, I would like to offer my honorary pronoun to Holy Trio and President Swami and Swami Namaste to the devotees and the online person who are doing this. So now my job is to take a few stories that happened 150 years back almost in the small streets of Kolkata and the locality called Shimla. So Mother Bhuvaneshwari Devi worshipped Lord Shiva for a son after having a few daughters. Now one winter morning, Shiva granted her prayers. It was the last day of Pokh, a Bengali calendar as it was yesterday. His father, an eminent lawyer, Vishwanath Datta, was very happy and soon announced the big news. And we have a tradition of doing through conch shell, making sound to celebrate the good news in a house. Likewise, back then, local people gathered hearing the sound and he became popular sales. His mother gave him the name Vireshwar after Vireshwar Shiva. However, that name was difficult to spell each time, and he got a rather easy nickname called Bilay. He got his good name Narendranath in his first rice ceremony. Now, Bilay in his childhood was awfully naughty, as he would run up to two open sewers when his sister would chase him. He knew his sister wouldn't chase him because then they would have to take a shower or bath. That's like horrible thing that time. He would also get furious sometimes. Such was his anger that he would go on smashing things at whatever his hands laid on. During that time, his mother would pour cold water on his head to calm him down and say the word Shiv, Shiv, Shiv. This surprisingly would calm him down. Her mother would also lock him up in his room for apparent mischief. Now, this apparent mischief was that he would provide liberally to the needy people whenever he saw them, even took out his own shirt and gave them. So such was his kind nature from such a tender age. Now, her mother, concerned with running family with Bile's habit of giving away indiscriminately, she would confine him whenever sadhus or friends would come to their house, because like Bile would give them whatever he laid his hands on. But that didn't stop him also. Like even if he was confined in his room, he would look outside through the roadside window and drop all his mother's valuables to the beggars, and without thinking about his mother, what will say. He was fearless also. Now, besides his naughtiness, he would also love to play a lot and would sometimes come up with new games on his own. He came up with a game of meditation where he would take few of his friends and meditate on image of Ram, Sita, and Shiva also. By the way, he used to love listening to Rama and Mahabharata from his tender age. Now, unlike his friends who would be very restless and like while sitting still, like meditating, his friends would like peek once in a while to see what the others are doing. But Bile would meditate thinking about gods and lose his senses to the physical world, such that he didn't even realize the cobra snake passing by him, while his friends fled in fear, shouting. Later, when he was asked about the snake, he said he never realized anything about the snake and he was in bliss. Bile lived the ideals of never believe in anything blindly. He could not resist or like his urge to know questions if something in his mind. Like he couldn't raise satisfactorily found the answers to his inquiries. Such incident was figuring out the mystery of caste. So since they were well-known family, and father being a lawyer, many people would come visit his father and they would be offered smoking pipe. But there were multiple smoking pipes, or like hookah as we call them, with different castes and religion names on it. So people of that particular caste would just use that particular one. Now he had this burning question: why we have like multiple of this? Why we can just take one and smoke from them? Now, on this question, his father explained to him that one would lose his caste if they use the same hookah used by the person from other caste or religion. Well, Bile was hardly convinced, and he went on trying from every hookah one by one, like touching the lips, like to the pot, like post, and one by one to check whether the caste would go away or not. His intuitive nature and urge to realize God brought him to the ultimate Guru, Sri Ramakrishna. Seeker of the truth met with the ultimate truth itself, just like a great disciple meeting great Guru. Our Bile became Radhapati Narendra, which means king of human beings, our own Swami Vivekananda.
Thank you, Subhashish. As we know, Swami Vivekananda was born because of prayer. And Swami said, those who are brought to this world due to prayer, they are Aryans, they are civilized, not through sensuous enjoyment. So anyway, we have seen how he developed his generosity in his childhood. Now, I request Jyotima to present his days of struggle to find truth. Right from childhood, he wanted to realize truth, as we found through the experiment with losing the caste. whether caste really goes away from him or not. He wanted to test himself. So this is the nature, this was the nature of Swami Vivekananda, to find out truth by himself, not that it is said by someone, but whether it goes really or not, he wanted to experiment. So we'll see how he struggled to find the truth and how he meets Sri Ramakrishna and finds the solution.
Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Sudaya Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamini Tapaharini. Salutations to the King of Yogis, Swami Vivekananda, through his existence, awareness, and bliss absolute and remover of sorrows. Namaste, Swamijis, and dear friends. So, like Subhash ji was mentioning about how Vivekananda, at a very young age, you can see very well that the strong inclination to spiritual life was there, because he used to play the game of meditation. Which child would think of playing game of meditation? So anyway, before I get started, Swamiji has guided me on this topic, and I've taken excerpts from Swami Chetananandji's book, God Lived with Them, to talk about this topic, Swami Vivekananda's Days of Search and Truth. So similarly, like this incident where he was playing meditation, there's another incident when he was at school one night and he was meditating deeply behind closed doors for a long time. He had no idea, no sense of the passing of time. And soon after meditation, while he was seated, he saw a luminous form of a sannyasi step out of the wall and stood in front of him. Swami Vivekananda looked at the form in speechless wonder, and suddenly he was seized by fright and quickly ran out of the room. So like this, in his intense desire to realize the truth, he practiced meditation. He studied different religious and philosophical systems of the East and the West. He met different religious leaders, but nothing was of any avail. This was also the reason why he went and joined the Brahmo Samaj, which was at those times a socio-religious organization. And guess what? He went and met the leader of the Brahmo Samaj, Devendranath Tagore, and he said, "Sir, have you seen God?" Devendranath was embarrassed by this, and he said, "My boy, you have the eyes of a yogi. You should practice meditation." So like this, Narendra continued to struggle in his spiritual practices. One day, while he was attending a literature class, Principal Hasty was giving a lecture on the Wordsworth poem, which was The Excursion. And he told his students that such purity and concentration is required to have such transcendental experience. But in modern times, he said it is very rare. But I know only one person who has realized that blessed state, and he is Ramakrishna of Dakshineshwar. You will understand it better if you visit the saint. Then Narendra also heard from his own cousin, Ramachandra Datta, who was already a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. He said, "Narendra, if you want to progress spiritually, go meet Sri Ramakrishna of Dakshineshwar." So he had already heard it. But you see how the cosmic will design the first meeting. It so happened that this Surendranath Mitra, who was a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, arranged a satsang at his place and invited Sri Ramakrishna as the guest of honor. And he requested Vivekananda, Narendra, then, "Narendra, please can you come sing some devotional songs for the master?" And so that's how Vivekananda landed at Surendranath Mitra's house, and he sang devotional songs. And Sri Ramakrishna was extremely impressed by his singing and said, "Come to Dakshineshwar." And there now the first meeting. So this incident where he met Sri Ramakrishna at Surendranath's house was sometime in November 1881. So in early 1882, Vivekananda, he hold on to the younger name, not even to this thing. Please tell me how I'm doing on that. I'm like 10 minutes now. So, so now Narendra came with his friends, landed at Dakshineshwar, and Sri Ramakrishna welcomed him and said, sing a song, sing some bhajans. And so Narendra said, let us go back once more, O mind, to our proper home. And there Sri Ramakrishna went into ecstasy. After singing was over, he took Narendra to the northern veranda, closed the doors, and with tearful eyes, you see that it's so touching when you read these stories. He said, with tearful eyes, you have come so late. Was that proper? Couldn't you have guessed how I have been waiting for you? My ears are nearly burnt off listening to the talk of these worldly people. I thought I will burst, not having anyone to tell how I felt. Then with folded hands, he said, I know who you are. You are Nara Narayana, the ancient sage, the incarnation of Narayana. You have come to this earth to take away the sufferings and sorrows of mankind. Imagine if you hear somebody tell you this. Narendra was dumbfounded and he thought that this man is insane. Although this incident disturbed him, he asked the master, Sir, have you seen God? Without a moment's hesitation, back came the answer, yes, I have seen God. I see him as I see you here, only more clearly. God can be seen. One can talk to him, but who cares for God? People shed torrents of tears for their wives, children, wealth, and property, but who weeps for the vision of God? If one, see now here, if one cries sincerely for God, one can surely see him. Narendra later said, this impressed me at once. For the first time, I found a man who dared to say that he had seen God, that religion was a reality to be felt, to be sensed in an infinitely more intense way than we can sense the world. He felt that Ramakrishna's words was uttered from deep inner experience. You can sometimes feel this. And what to talk about Vivekananda was already at a very high state. Then just quickly, even Sri Ramakrishna tells him, do you see some light when you go to sleep? And Vivekananda was so surprised, and he said, yes, I do. And he thought everybody experienced it. So you see, right from birth, it was a totally different story for Vivekananda. He used to see this blue light, and it used to grow big and burst, and his whole body would be filled with light, and then that used to make him fall asleep. So, already the markers of a spiritual giant was already there. Anyway, a month later, so this was the first meeting at Dakshineshwar, where he met this insane man, telling him, I know who you are. Then a month later, when Narendra met Sri Ramakrishna touched him in an ecstatic mood. At his touch, Narendra saw with open eyes the whole world vanishing. The walls, the rooms, the temple garden, even himself were disappearing into the void. He felt sure he was facing death. He cried out loudly, what did you do? Don't you know that our parents told? And then this Sri Ramakrishna laughed, touched his chest. All right, let it stop now. It will happen at its own good time. And he came back to normal. After this, he became very alert. He said, this man is dangerous. I need to keep control. Ramakrishna knew Narendra's mind was naturally inclined to the path of knowledge. So he initiated him into the teachings of the non-dualistic Vedanta. He made him read aloud passages of the Ashtavakra Samhita. I really encourage all of you, please read Ashtavakra Gita, it's beautiful, and other Vedantic treatises, so that he could grasp the essence of the Vedanta philosophy, which teaches that Brahman is the ultimate reality. It comes in the Taittiriya second this thing. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma existence, knowledge, infinite. That is the definition. Swami Sarvapriyananda also tells beautifully defining God. Please do go and listen to that talk. The individual soul is Brahman and nothing else. The world is nothing but name and form. It is apparent, not real, having only a relative existence. So this is the Vedantic teaching. This was hard for Swamiji to stomach, being a staunch follower of the Brahmo Samaj ideal. He expressed, there is no greater sin than to think oneself as a creator. I am God, you are God, these created things are God. What can be more absurd? Like this, he's telling Sri Ramakrishna. The sages who wrote such things must be insane. The master did not mind his open outspokenness and smiled and said, you may not accept the views of these seers, but how can you abuse them or limit God's infinitude? Isn't that right? So logical. Go on praying to God and He will reveal you the truth. And so like this, one day, but he doesn't stop here. Who? This Narendra. One day while chatting with Hazra at Dakshineshwar, Narendra ridiculed the Vedic experience of oneness. How can this be? The jug is God, the cup is God, that we too are God. Nothing can be more preposterous. The master, hearing this, came out of the room where these two were sitting and chatting. Hello, hello, what are you talking about? Touched Narendra and went into Samadhi. Swamiji describes this graphically. I won't go into the detail. I just took a few snippets from Swami Chaitanya's book. The magic touch of the master that day immediately brought a wonderful change over my mind. I was stupefied to find that there was really nothing in the universe but God. I saw quite clearly. I kept silent to see if the idea would last. Look at him. Never lost. He was so alert. But the impression did not abate in the course of the day. I returned home. But there too, everything I saw appeared to be Brahman. I sat down to take my meal, but found that everything, the food, the plate, the person who served, and even myself, was nothing but that. All the while, whether eating or lying down or going to college, the same experience. I felt that the cabs and myself were made of one stuff. When I became normal again, I realized that I must have had a glimpse of the Advaitic state. Then it struck me that the words of the scriptures were not false. Thenceforth, I could not deny the conclusions of the Advaita philosophy. So similarly, we know that he was again. So this was formless. He got that experience. Every time it was like Sri Ramakrishna will touch him and give him that experiential knowledge and clear his doubt. Similarly, he was dead against Mother Kali. That's a statue, that's a bond. And then comes the big blow of poverty on his family, and he comes begging Sri Ramakrishna. And then Sri Ramakrishna is very clever. He says, why do you ask me? Go, ask Mother Kali. And she will, and then you know how he went 3 times and he was just overwhelmed by the divine presence. And after that was the turning point. For him, Mother Kali was no more a statue, no more a form. It was that infinite presence. So like this, the master ensured Narendra's doubts and questions were experientially answered and clarified. Such was the intensity of it. So this is another beautiful thing I loved. Such was the intensity of this seeking that you can see with this litmus test that Sri Ramakrishna threw at him. Anybody could have fallen for this kind of a test. What was the test? Sri Ramakrishna said that, Naren, I'm thinking of asking the mother to transfer all the supernatural powers I possess from long years of austerity. And she's told me that will be very useful for you. Yes, what was Narendra? Narendra asked, will that help me to realize God? Master said, no, but they might be very useful after you have realized God. Then Narendra said, then let me first realize God first. Then after that, there's enough time to decide whether I need it or not. And who knows, if I accept them now, may forget God and make selfish use of them and thus come to grief. And this mightily pleased Sri Ramakrishna. Such one pointed this thing, no no, all these were like trinkets for him, nothing other than that jackpot. I have to realize God, nothing short of that was his thing. And this was not the only way that Sri Ramakrishna taught him, just, touching him, sending him into this, out of consciousness states. Sri Ramakrishna encouraged debates. And he would call, please, okay, come on, you do debate in English. And then, of course, then you will see all these debates in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Yeah, and then, okay, I'll wrap up. It's very beautiful. So anyway, so like this, he would clarify, and then this Vivekananda would ask questions, and he clarify. And then I'll go to the very end. So like this, the years pass, and then he realizes that the master is not going to live long. And now he intensifies his spiritual practice one day and teaches Sri Ramakrishna for an experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He thought this was the ultimate Vedantic experience. That was one last fault he had, which is also ironed out. The master reprimanded him. Shame on you! You are asking for such an insignificant thing? See this, insignificant thing. I thought you would be like a big banyan tree that thousands would rest in your shade. But now I see that you are seeking your own salvation. Then he said, there is a state higher than that. It is to see God in all beings and to serve them in a spirit of worship. Then one evening, you all know how he went into meditation and with his brother disciple, and he went into such high states and he experienced it that when he was coming back normal, he said, where is my body? And this brother disciple said, you're here, everything is here. And then he runs to Sri Ramakrishna and tells, see, this is what is happening to Naren. And then Sri Ramakrishna says, let him stay in that state for a while. He has pestered me for it. And Narendra remained immersed in Samadhi, forgetting time and space. And then later he comes to the master. And then Sri Ramakrishna tells, now the mother has shown you everything. But this realization is like a jewel, will be locked in a box and kept hidden. The key is in my custody. Only after you have fulfilled the mission on this earth will this box be unlocked, and you will know everything as you know now. And so his mission was to remove the suffering of mankind. He had come for this mission, and thank you.
So we have seen how search for truth led him to his Guru, Sri Ramakrishna. And after that, a great life was spent in the monastery of Varanagar. They studied scriptures. So the second point is scriptures, Gita. First Guru, he found his Guru. By his blessings, he could realize that ultimate truth. Though he was Dhyana-siddha himself, as Sri Ramakrishna would tell, that he was Dhyana-siddha right from his birth. But that was not enough. But he has to go through human experience. As Sri Ramakrishna reprimanded him for seeking Nirvikalpa Samadhi for himself and not to think of the world. So before he delivers his message to the world, he must see the third, that means Ganga, the eternal flow of spiritual life in Indian subcontinent, how it was still living, though in a hidden way, though it was oppressed by so many other factors, but still the eternal India was living, and he witnessed in his itinerant days. So we'll now listen from Lokesh how Swami Vivekananda spent his itinerant days. And thank you, Jyotina, for elaborating. But let us be confined with our topic. Yes, we have so many things to talk about, but we have to control ourselves also.
No, we are starting late, so we have to really control ourselves. तापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवर्षिताय श्रीरामकृष्णाय नमः. My pranams at the holy feet of Holy Trio, revered Swami Chandrasekharanandi, respected Swami Vivekananda, and my dear spiritual friends. Today, my topic is Swami said, itinerant days. So we have seen from other two speakers, like we looked into the life of Swamiji as a naughty boy, Bilal, and we also looked into his life in his younger youth days, where he was like Narendranath searching for truth. So this was very nicely iterated by the two speakers who speak before me. So before I enter into my topic, like eternal days, what was there. So we need to understand what is the purpose. Like in the eternal days, he was a Parirajika sannyasi. Parirajika sannyasi means a wandering monk. So he wandered around the whole of India in those days. So what was the purpose? After Ramakrishna's Mahasamadhi, they established this Bharata government, and then they did a lot of spiritual practice, as Swamiji said just now, and then also like studied the scriptures and everything. But there was this one desire for Swamiji to become this wandering monk, free, and roam around and then do sadhana and go to different pilgrimage places and then do sadhana in those pilgrimage places. So what is the purpose? What is the purpose of this wandering days? So it is basically, if you see that, like one is you go to different Tirtha Kshetra, that is the pilgrimage centers in India. So if you look in North, like Badrinath, Kedarnath, Rishikesh, like all those places, so where the great souls have done their sadhanas, so to go there and then do samadhi and then to realize the ultimate nirvikalpa samadhi. That is the ultimate goal. So one of the purposes. So next, if you look at it, like whole of his life he has spent in Calcutta. So he has not gone out of Calcutta other than a couple of places to nearby places, like say sometimes to Anpur and in the Baranagar days. He has not looked at the world as that. To gain the experience of the world, and so that's another purpose why he has to travel. So that's the reason he meets different people in different parts of India, understands their different culture. So though India has one culture, but if you look at different areas, there are different set of people, they have different local traditions. To understand those people, because in the next phase of his life, he is going to deliver the message for the whole world. So to gain all those experiences, so he goes to this wandering monk life. And then another important, very, very important purpose is to study India. So like see, he was by going to different places, he wanted to study what state the India was in. You know, like we have already seen in the video, like what was the state in which India was in at that particular time in the late 18th century. So to study him, like personally himself, to gain the experience, so there's another purpose. He goes to different places and then meets different people. And not last but not the least, to preach the people whoever he meets, like it may be a cobbler or it may be a Maharaja of a state. So he preaches whoever people he meets, whatever he has learned till that time from his guru and through his own experiences. So these are the four purposes I have found, like why he has to take up these days. Then his travel, like his day starts in 1888. So he first travels to Varanasi. So that is the first trip he takes out of the Varanasi government. So and then he travels to Varanasi, where great Shankaracharya and other saints have stayed there, and then they have done sadhana there. So there he stayed in the Dwaraka's mud, and then there you might all know a famous incident happened in that place during that time. So while he is coming back from the Durga temple, you might have heard this story. So basically, he was walking on the side of the Durga temple. Then a bunch of huge monkeys started to chase him. So he's just like us, he started running. So to escape from these huge monkeys who are attacking him. So then he hears a loud voice. Spare the brutes. So spare the brutes. So that's the voice he hears, and then he immediately sees that a sannyasi is telling him to stop and try to spare those monkeys. So then he stops, and then he tries to then the monkeys run away. So he uses this incident in his later lectures in New York, and he says, so these monkeys are if you look, the problems of your life are like these monkeys. So if you try to face them, they will run away. If you try to run away, they will chase you back. So after visiting Vivekananda, he comes back to Bharatanagar government. Then he stays there some more time. Then spending time there with his brother disciples, and then teaching them and then studying the Upanishads and Vedas. So then next trip he takes is to the north. He was again the desire to travel and then involved in the sadhana. It gets stronger. So he next travels to northern Tirthas. So again he starts the journey starts from the Varanasi. So this time he gets to stay with Pramadanath Mitra. So he is one of the great scholars, Sanskrit scholars in Varanasi. So he was Swami was introduced to him through his brother disciple Vivekananda. So then he stays with him. There they discuss a lot of things about the scriptures, the Vedas and the Upanishads. It's a wonderful discussion which happens between these two knowledgeable persons. So whatever doubts he had on some matters, they deliberate on that with Pramadanath Mitra. So then after that he moves to Ayodhya. So where in Ayodhya we have not the birthplace of Rama. He gets immersed into the thought of the king Rama, and then from there he moves on to Lucknow. So where he studies about the Mughal architecture and the Mughal rules. There are some palaces and those constructed by Mughal. So he studies them. From there he moves on to the Agra. Agra is again a place where you will find the great Taj Mahal and other Mughal the fort of Agra. So he goes visits those places, and then he says to study it is not enough to couple of days are not enough to see the whole of Taj Mahal. So you need to every inch of it you need to study. That's what he says in one of his things. So then from Agra he moves on to Vrindavan. So he all his travel most of the times he is doing on his foot. So from Agra to Vrindavan, when he is traveling, his last 30 miles, he says he is going on foot. So another famous incident happens in his life while going from to Vrindavan. So you might already know this. He was walking, he was very tired, and he didn't have food, water, everything. So he was very tired. And then he sees a person smoking a pipe, smoking a hookah. So then he asks, can I have a smoke from you? So then he says, he was a caller. So he says, he was a speaker, sorry. He was a speaker. Swami, he said, no, Swami, I am a speaker, I can't give you this. So then in this, Swamiji is getting to this mode of cash feeling and all and then he says, okay, I should not take this from him, and then he walks away. So then after going little bit further up for 2-3 kilometers, he realizes, what am I doing? I am a sannyasi, I have left everything. This is the caste or everything is nothing will bind me. So he then again he traces back the path and tries to find this person again. And this time he again asks, okay, give me this. He says, no, I will not give. And I'm a sweeper. Then he insists, he grabs it from him and then he takes and then he smokes from it. So then, like another incident, like which happens in Vrindavan again. So this is like he's taking the he's going around the Govardhan mountain. Okay, so this time he takes a vow that I will not eat any food while taking the circle around them. Let's see if God is there. If God is there, he provides the food, then only I will eat. So he's walking, and he's so tired, but still somehow he's dragging his food and he's going around the Govardhan mountain. Then, like a person comes running behind him. Somebody stop. He's bringing some bags, food in the bag, and he's coming behind him to give him the food. Then Swamiji didn't run. He started running. Let's see if God is so much willful and he will give me the food. So he runs and then somehow that guy catches up with him and then Swami stop. You have to take this food. This I have to give you. So then at that time Swamiji eats and then he proceeds with this travel. Another incident which happens again in the Vrindavan is he goes to Radhakund. Radhakund is and then he's there he want to take a dip in the Yamuna. So he takes out his clothes and then starts to take and he puts it on a tree for drying and then he's taking a bath. Then when he comes back and he has only one set of clothes. He doesn't have anything other than a set of clothes, a couple of books and a command. So then he sees that his clothes are gone. It's not there. So this is exactly the same incident which happens in the Gopika's life where Krishna steals his clothes. So if you can see the thing happening. So then he curses Radha. So I have come to your place and this is happening to me. He is so listening. So then all this incident is watched by some other sannyasi and then he sees, okay, the monkeys have taken his clothes. So then he gives him a new set of clothes there. So then he comes back and sees that the monkeys have thrown back the clothes and they're falling in their place. So next from there he moves on to there's another place and in the railway, so there he meets his first disciple, Sharachandra Gupta. So Sharachandra Gupta was the station master in that railway station. So then he sees that this very bright sannyasi is sitting in the railway platform and then he goes starts to him. So then he was immediately impressed. So then he says, so Swamiji, please come to my house, stay in my house, like I want to offer you food. So he goes, stays with him. So then they became very close. And then one day, like Swamiji was very sad, and he was in a sad mood. So then Sharachandra asked, Swamiji, why are you so sad today? What happened? So then Swamiji says, I have a great mission in my life which my guru has given me, which I need to carry out. But I am so unsure that I have the capacity to do this. So the mission which my guru has given me is to regenerate the motherland. That is my mission. But I'm a penniless sannyasi. So how can I do it? And I don't my own capacities. Yeah, then Sharad says, I am ready to help you in whatever way.
Okay, so that's no.
I just complete this. Then he says, okay, come. Are you ready to beg?
Okay,
Take a deep breath.
don't do it. That's okay.
Sorry.
Please limit yourself to 10 minutes, but I understand, but 1 or 2 minutes are okay. There are so many things to talk about. The incident is Swamiji was very disturbed and he was not sure whether he would be able to fulfill the mission that was given to him by his guru. So what later he did Later he went to Kathiawar, he studied Mahabhashya. He also studied various scriptures. And that way he knew what he discovered. He discovered that religion, which is blamed as a cause of degradation of India, is not real. But it is not practicing religion in its real sense that is the cause of degradation. That is why so much of penury, so much of illiteracy were present. And after completing his itinerant days, he goes to Kanyakumari and he swims to a isolated island. He meditates here for 3 days and 3 nights, and he discovers the way that was discovered by all our teachers, to preach religion in its real sense and not to discard. So this is what he later followed. And there also he got some inspiration to go to the West to preach religion. So anyway, that was incident. He dreamt a dream where Sri Ramakrishna was walking on the water, indicating him to follow. So that was that happened. What is the discovery? Discovery of India is living with its spiritual ideals, spiritual practices, though buried in Lokachara. So that was discovery of India by Swami Vivekananda, and to preach religion in its real sense, that we did later. So that way he got the inspiration, how to fulfill the mission that was given by his guru. So anyway, now thank you Lokesh, and thank you Jyotima also. Now I request Christopher Rudolph to present his song on Swami.
Well, you know, I'm not one to sit and think about all that's gone wrong. I know it's all behind me now, and here I'm standing in the sun, even when the clouds won't quit raining, and no time has been lost. Nothing has been brought up to greater cost. There's nothing to stop us now. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Well, I have faith, faith in me. I have faith in you. But most of all, I have faith in the one who'll always get us through. Yes, I do. Yes, I have faith in me. I have faith, I have faith, I have faith in you. Most of all, I have faith in the one who always gets us through. It's the one who lives in your heart. Well, me and you, everything we do, everything we think or say, it all comes back, it's true. And that's been said before. If we forget it, we won't make it through the door. Well, now the world sure gives us quite a fight, but if we believe, we know it won't keep us from the light. With all of our strength and all of our love, we're gonna make it to the kingdom of, because it lives in your heart. And I have faith in me. I have faith, I have faith, I have faith in you. Most of all, I have faith and the one who always gets us through. Sing it with me. I have faith, faith in me. I have faith, faith in me. But most of all, I have faith in the one who always get us through. Yes, I do. Well, me and you, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of love to give to make this dream come true. And with faith that can move mountains, we'll change strangers' frowns to smiles. And a new world I see before my eyes. Considering where we are right now, it should be no surprise. With faith we all share here, we're gonna move some stars up in the sky. Everybody, well, I have faith, faith in you. Yes, I have faith, I have faith, I have faith in you. Most of all, I have faith in that love that always gets us through. Well, I have faith, faith in you. I have faith in you. And most of all, I have faith in the one who always gets us. Most of all, I have faith in the one who always gets us. Most of all, I have faith in the one who always gets us through. And have your chance to look at you.
Very good, thank you. So I need to say that each and every who does not believe in himself. So faith in oneself is very important. And that faith that all power is within you. You can do anything and everything. This is very important. So after discovering that India still living but maybe covered by dust and dirt of ages, he visited a temple town called Palitana in Gujarat near Bhavnagar, where the temple Tilak, that's many temples are there, but some cobwebs here and there. So he discovered that we need to remove the cobwebs. And he writes in his East and West, Prachya and Paschatya, how that can be done. So after discovering this, and also he realized that the Parliament of Religion organized in Chicago in 1893 was for him. Once he told Hari Maharaj, Swami Kriyanandaji in Mount Abu, that Hari Bhai, I don't know your religion, but my heart has expanded a great deal. And that what is going to happen in Chicago, it is for this. He had that faith in himself, that he gathered from his guru, and he gathered through his own experience, and he gathered through the scriptures. So that faith led him to the West. Now I request Shayandev to tell about Swamiji's first visit to the West.
Okay, so good morning. Actually, now good afternoon. So this is my usual talk and presentation is very visual in nature. So it will be a very visual way of telling the story. So this is the first trip. We will go in a little bit detail about till Chicago, and then after that he stayed here for 3 years from 1893 to 1896. We will take small good incidents from the rest of the journey and talk about what he taught.
10 minutes.
Yeah. I have it. Okay, good. Yeah, so the main thing is that these three people were the main funders of his trip. So Ajit Singh of Khetri, this man not only gave him money for his travel, but also gave him his turban. And Bhaskar Sethupathi of Ramnath also gave him money. Alasingha, his student and friend, also did a lot of fundraising in Madras. He came to Mumbai in 1893, and that's where he started his journey. Next slide. So this is his travel path. So he started on May 31st, 1893. He took a ship called SS Peninsular. First, he moved from Mumbai to Sri Lanka, and from Sri Lanka, the same ship went via Penang, Malaysia, the Strait of Malacca, through Singapore to Canton in China. He visited Guangzhou, and then after that, from Guangzhou, he took a ship up to Yokohama. So this is the last leg of the journey towards Yokohama, and this is a picture of the Peninsula ship from a postcard in 1890s. Next slide. So the last leg comes from Japan, Yokohama to Vancouver, British Columbia, by a ship called SS Empress India. And in this ship, during this journey, he meets J.N. Tata or Jamshedji Tata, who later on made Tata Industries. There are letters between them, 32 pages sometimes, each letter, in which he proposes this guy to make industries in the country. Before that, he was just a cloth merchant. Next slide. So, July 26, 1893, early morning, 11 a.m., he starts on a train journey, Canadian Pacific Railway, for about 60 hours to Winnipeg. He reaches on 28th. In this journey, on 27 July, in this train, he met Kate Sanborn, who was a professor of literature at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts. She was mesmerized by meeting Vivekananda, and she said that, why don't you visit me in Brisbane Meadows in Massachusetts when you come there? So he got an invitation. From Winnipeg, he took a 30-hour journey via St. Paul to Chicago and reached very late in the night at about 11 a.m. on July 30th. Now, he was very tired. In the last 3 months, he has taken a ship. He has been very seasick. He had stayed in a coach for 90 hours in some place, and he has been trying to cover himself up. He did not have full meal in the last 3 months. He was so tired that in Chicago station, he just sat at a corner and fell asleep. In his sleep, he saw Sri Ramakrishna standing in front of him, telling him, "Get up, man." His journey has just begun. Next slide. So, in the next 10-12 days, he stayed in Chicago and visited the Current Art Institute or Columbus Hall every day, which was a part of the Columbian expedition. In those 12 days, he figured out a couple of things. He has no accreditation, he has no credentials to present, so he cannot become a delegate. He is also too late to be there. Chicago is very expensive, he could not afford. He had an invitation from Kate Sanborn in Massachusetts, he decided to go there. Next slide. So he goes to Boston and stays in Metcalfe, Massachusetts or Framingham with Kate Sanborn in a house, in a farmhouse called Breezy Meadows. Kate Sanborn, being a professor in Smith of the original Seven Sisters, knew a lot of faculty there. She introduced Vivekananda to many people, some in Salem, Massachusetts, and some in Gloucester or Annisquam, Massachusetts. Main important person is Professor John Henry Wright. We saw later, Henry Wright was a professor of Greek at Harvard, and he was impressed by Vivekananda. So this is how he probably looked like when he met Swamiji, not as the old one that we get from Harvard archives. So Vivekananda, then he said that, why don't you go and present in Chicago and talk in Parliament of Religions? But he said, I have no accreditation, I have no credentials. What do I present? Professor Wright says, to ask you for your credentials is like asking the sun to state its right to shine in its heavens. So he wrote to the authorities in Parliament and he said that this guy is more learned than all of our learned professors together. Let him speak. So in his first public lecture happened on a Sunday. That's why coming to Sunday service is very important. He gave it on August 27, 1893 on a Sunday in this Universalist church in Annisquam, Massachusetts. Sunday service started that time. It's still continuing right now. So next one. Next, so Jeffrey Wright brought him a ticket, gave him money to go to Chicago. So he ended up going to Chicago. This is today version. Today how it looks like, which is called Fullerton Hall. If you go to Art Institute in Chicago, we had the opportunity of visiting this place last year in May 2022 when we went for the Home of Harmony opening in Chicago. And there are pictures all over there. There are pictures of Swamiji. Please visit and see. This is where he gave his talk. Right. This is where he met George Hells. This is where the blasting happened. Next one. So this is the delegate that came from Eastern India. So you can see that there are people like Narasimhacharya, there is Lakshmi Narayan, you obviously know Vivekananda, then there is Dharmapala and Raghav Gandhi. They are present, Dharmapala actually present on Buddhism. He is from Sri Lanka. So this was the whole delegate series. The topic that came out at that time, Chicago Tribune article, is the cyclonic Hindu monk. So where is the cyclone? We heard about Vivekananda, right? So it is not about the finesse and the study and the practice of Vivekananda, right? His talks are full of historical evidences from various places, right? So it's so much history. So I say study of Narendra. But what came with him in his body was the spiritual power of Sri Ramakrishna. That traveled from India to United States. And that is the recipe for the cyclone. If it hits you, that's why you are still here. So I made a list of the talks that he gave in Chicago, okay, in a format on each day. The most important ones, I marked them. The opening address is a way to defeat bigotry and fanaticism. On 19th, he actually gave a talk of paper on Hinduism. It's the proposition of Sri Ramakrishna. It is the proposition of the way to look at religion. If you have not read it, please do. Actually, you would do it like it is a much better spend of time than looking at my blabbering, reading this article. And essence of Hindu religion. These are some of the very important. There was also a huge discussion on Buddhism, and there is also a proposition of Shakyamuni that is there. Shakyamuni is Buddha. So what is his proposition? Vivekananda explains it. So next part is he stays in the Midwest cities a little bit. From April to July 1894, he actually is in New York and in Boston. July 1894 is very important. He goes to Eliot, Maine, and that's where he performs in a series of conferences called Greenacre Conference. Okay, now the next leg, he again comes back to Boston, but in October, the 12 days, the first 12 days of October 1894, he spends at this place. This house is still there, 168 Battle Street. I have visited this place. It was selling in 2018. Now, Sarah Bull used to live here, and this is the house he later on taught Raja Yoga. This is the place where Cambridge conferences happened. He debated about Advaita Vedanta and Vedanta with hundreds of professors at that time in this house. Actually, it's still there. You can imagine how this house looks like. So after that, he moved to New York and stayed very close to the Empire State Building, pretty much a block away in 54 West 33rd Street. And that is where he gave a lot of the initial lectures that we see in the complete works. After that, that summer, 1895 summer, April 14 to 22, he visited Ridgely Manor for the first time. The house of Josephine Maglack, Francis Leggett, and we know that there is a long incident about Ridgely. You can still visit Ridgely. We have that house. We have the bed on which Swami actually slept. It is now a convent under the Vedanta Society of Southern California. So after that, he stays there till so 1894 goes in like that. In 1895, he actually goes to New York and after New York for a certain amount of time, from basically June to August. So there, it is Mary Dutcher's cottage in Thousand Island Park, where he teaches some very important things. We'll go there in the next slide. So Thousand Island Park is in Wellesley Island. So the only inevitable island, perennially, is Wellesley Island in Thousand Island. This is a picture taken by me in 2017 when I visited this place. And this is Shobhan sitting on a chair on that. Yeah, he was my friend. So, and this is the rock on which he sat and meditated. And on August 6, 1895, very important day, he had a public samadhi in front of two ladies, Christine Greenstidle and Mary Funk. There was a thunderstorm happening and it was rain falling. He was in meditation. He got completely drenched. They found out that nothing moved him at all. It is in this cottage he taught Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Avadhuta Gita, Katha Upanishad, and Brahma Sutra Vasa, Vedanta Sutra Vasa, both versions, Shankara and Ramanuja. He actually starts with Ramanuja for the first 3 days in this cottage. Next one. So after this, he goes to Europe. He stays in Paris till September, and then he moves to England for the rest of the year. In Christmas of 1895, he comes to stay in Italy and spend time with them. So this is where he talks about the proposition of Christ. In 1896, we see him fully moved to New York for the first 6 months. He stays very close to Times Square, just by Bryant Park, actually. And this is the place where Leon Landsberg and J.J. Goodwin start taking all his notes. He becomes a guest of Leon Landsberg, later on becomes Swami Kripananda, and that's where all the 4 main yogas were taught: Bhakti, Jnana, Karma, and Raja Yoga. Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, actually, mainly. Raja Yoga, again, later on classes in Sadhguru's house. So he takes his final trip in US, and then in April 1896, he goes to UK. From April till December, actually November, he stays in UK completely, with short bursts in other countries in Europe, like Germany, Switzerland, and etc. UK is very important in 1896 because that is where he teaches practical Vedanta. During the pandemic, actually Swamiji, just before starting Vivekananda, that was the topic that we were going through, practical Vedanta. And that is where all the discussions about Maya comes in. So there are a series of lectures on Maya in Advaita Vedanta, which is also happening in London. He met with Swami Vivekananda in London. That was also his first public speech, who later on took up the charge of Vedanta Society of New York, and also Sardananda before he left in New York. He finally started from London via Rome, Naples to India in December 1896. So that's the.
Thank you. Presentation. One thing, the Cape Sunburn initially wanted to showcase Swamiji as Curio. So she would invite you to see how a strange man here comes from India. But later, of course, she was instrumental to introduce Swamiji with Professor Wright. And only one correction. After return from Boston, he spent the night in the cable car. And the next day, he just wanted to walk, and he was tired. And then he sat in front of a house, and then a lady came from her house, that Mother's Church. That means Mrs. Mary Hale. So that way he met the Hale family. So this is one more thing, that he had to fight with bigots in his first visit. Lots of oppositions were there, and he had to answer all those against all those propaganda. So that was the first visit. Thank you very much. And now we go to know about what happens when he returns to India. Now, Evar Bharatvarsha. Evar Kendra Bharatvarsha. Now the center is India, because he had the second mission for India, as Sri Ramakrishna inspired him, that he has to uplift the whole country that was merged in superstitions, illiteracy, poverty. So that is what Swamiji came and hammered Indian people by his words. We hear from Banani Sheni.
My sincere pranams to the Holy Trial and Swami Vivekananda and Swamiji here. And namaskar to all my fellow devotees present here and also joining online. So, as Swamiji said, my today's talk is based on rejuvenating India, Swamiji's vision. Swami Vivekananda envisioned a rejuvenated India, a wonderful, glorious future India will come. From his deep study of the world history and the rise and fall of world civilizations, Swamiji could foresee the role that India was destined to play for the good of the world, Jagat Hitaya, Bahujan Hitaya, Bahujan Sukhaya, as Buddha said. In order to achieve this goal, Swamiji realized a vigorous, powerful India should emerge. After his triumphal return that Shan was going over from the West in 1897, we can see in his lectures, Swamiji constantly emphasized on this. Here, I'll try to categorize Swamiji's teachings on this mission of rejuvenating India, primarily based on the lectures from Colombo to Almora. First, divinity within us. He says, each soul is potentially divine. The goal should be to manifest the divinity within us by controlling nature, external and internal. The secret of Advaita is believe in yourselves first and then believe in anything else. If you want material wealth, work it out, it'll come to you. If you want to be intellectual, work it out on the intellectual plane, and intellectual giants you shall be. And if you want to attain freedom, work it out on the spiritual plane, and free you shall be, and shall enter into nirvana, the eternal peace. But Advaita was primarily worked out only on the spiritual plane for a long time and nowhere else. Swamiji encouraged to make it more practical. Such philosophy should be practiced not only by monks living in caves or forests, but by everybody from all genres of life, rich or poor, learned or illiterate, man or woman. Second, he has a lot of faith on the youth, so call to the youth. Swamiji had great faith in the younger generation. Younger generation, he said, should prioritize physical health. He said, you will be nearer to heaven through football than through the study of Gita. You will understand the Gita better with your biceps, your muscles a little stronger. He envisioned strong, vigorous, believing young men, sincere to the backbone, could revolutionize the world. They working together, following Swamiji's teachings, will be able to bring comfort, morality, religion, education for all, even to the doors of the meanest and the downtrodden. Third, faith, which is the source of the strength. That's what Swamiji says. He says, we want Shraddha, we want faith in our own selves. Strength is life, weakness is death. We are Atman, deathless and free, pure by nature. Be not afraid of anything. Have faith in yourselves. Great convictions lead to great deeds. The history of the world is the history of few men who had faith in themselves. The faith calls out the divinity within you. We fail only when we do not strive sufficiently to manifest infinite power that we have within ourselves. As soon as a man or nation loses faith, demise is inevitable. It is fear that is the great cause of all our woes, and it is fearlessness that brings heaven in a moment. Arise, awake, and stop not till the desired end is reached. Next is power of will and our mind. He believed every soul, irrespective of their background, has infinite capacity and potential, but the actual manifestation varies from one person to another based on the effort exerted in nurturing that. With positive thoughts, perseverance, courage, struggle, and self-motivation, everybody has the potential to achieve anything and everything. A strong mind gives total control over desires, anger, and all evil thoughts. Next, true effort and service. A river acquires velocity only when there is resistance. It is natural that every work will have opposition in the beginning. The newer and the better thing is the more opposition it's going to meet. It is the opposition which foretells success. We need to be brave, motivated, and move forward. Success may not come immediately, but we need to persevere and hold on to the highest. We should avoid jealousy and selfishness. This life is short, the vanities of the world are transient, but they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. In this world, we should always take the position of the giver. Try to help, give service, give any little thing that we can, but without expecting anything else in return. Next, education. True education is not the amount of information we gather but not assimilate. He says it's better to have a few ideas assimilated and make them our life and character than one who has got by heart a whole library. Every idea that strengthens us should be taken, and every thought that weakens must be rejected. We should dehypnotize ourselves from these weaknesses and remember the soul is infinite, omnipotent, and omniscient. Next, I'll speak about religion. So he says, to him, religion is not in books, nor in theories, nor in dogmas, nor in talking, not even in reasoning. It is being and becoming. I shall call you religious from the day you begin to see God in men and women. Swamiji was instrumental in carrying forward his Guru Sri Ramakrishna's teaching of Shivagane Jiva Sheva, which to him was the highest religion. We can all attend this by purity and love. So my next topic would be here, purity and love. Purity brings power. The impact of a real sadhu or shadhi, something mysterious emanates which makes people follow him or her, makes people listen and carry out his or her plan. This is Rishihood, and this is also the manifestation of love. Purity, patience, and perseverance are the three essentials to success, but above all is love. Never speak, not even think ill of others. I'll finally conclude. Swamiji's vision of a rejuvenated India is mainly twofold. The revivification of the fundamental principles discovered by ancient rishis, and most importantly, the practical application of these principles in everyday life for universal well-being. The most fundamental principle that Swamiji identified is every soul is potentially divine with infinite capacity. This immense potential can be harnessed with faith, willpower, purity, love, and selfless service. Though this talk is primarily based on Swamiji's lectures from Colombo to Almora, directed to India after his return from the first visit to the West, this is applicable to each of us, the entire humankind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have seen Swamiji set the ideal for India and for that matter for the whole world. Service and sacrifice, purity, purity of character, purity of purpose, love for downtrodden, love for all, love for even opponents, and the perseverance. One has to persevere this in one's life. It is a long drawn struggle, no doubt about it. But this is to practice the principles that is enunciated in our scriptures, in our day-to-day life. So this is the ideal for India, for the whole world. Swamiji thought and saw that rise of India is important because for the welfare of the world. Gradually it is taking shape. In few years, we'll understand what is happening, why the rise of India is important. It is already taking shape. And Swamiji said that Leviathan is rising again, taking a turn, and nobody can, no force of the whole world can stop it anymore. And I see the glory of past India is fell into insignificance of that glory which the India will shine out or shine in. So this is India, and rise of India is very important in the global advancement of our civilization. Because he saw India as a spiritual entity. He said, will India die? He said, no. Because then the spirituality from the face of the earth will extinct. Spirituality is to be rejuvenated, not only in India, but in the whole world. Spiritual ideas are coming from there. It is eternal Ganga that is flowing now. It is all over the world. Already it is taking shape. Only those who have eyes can see. Swamiji saw 130 years back. But still people are not seeing with all the contradictions that is happening. So thank you very much. Now it is time for his second visit to the West, and very important visit, because here Swamiji gave his heart, his ideals, what should be there, how the Vedanta could be brought to the society in our day-to-day lives, right from the forests to caves, and how can it rejuvenate the whole world. We'll see, and now I request Swami Vivekananda to present Swamiji's second visit to the West.
So it was a great struggle for Swamiji. And we have been hearing lots about Swamiji from all of us wonderful speakers. Now, as Swamiji was, at this before second visit, his heart was massively expanding. The moment the heart expands, so the person gives up his body-mind concept. So then he embraces Brahman. That is the like we can say consciousness or God. As he embraces the Brahman, then he expands. He becomes more liberal. All his narrow thoughts are just expanding massively. And what happens at last is, at that stage when there is no body-mind concept, we don't know what is the relationship between the spirit and another spirit, how to define it, because there is nothing to convey there. So he says that what the spirit worships spirit. So with this, the second visit starts. On December, there are lots of chronology. Please don't worry to remember the dates exactly. So on December 16, 1898, Swamiji announces his second visit to America. So there are many reasons for that. The first is recuperation. His health was deteriorating. As a man expands from the spiritual level, his body-mind concepts deteriorate. So he doesn't care for it. So he was so tired. And as you were listening to the previous teacher, the lecturer, she was saying about the various works he was doing in India. And his body was totally breaking down. So he needs rest. That was the first reason for his to visit second visit to America. The second is to fan the flame of his Western work, which he already started. Third, very important, Sri Ramakrishna initiated him to have a Vedanta center on our side of the country. In the previous visit, first visit, he installed Vedanta center in New York. Ramakrishna wants another center to be established on our side of the country, that is western side of the country. So that was that's a secret message from Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. We don't know, but it's not nowhere it is mentioned. This is just my wild guess. Then the fourth is to preach on the harmony of religion. In his first visit, he was more philosophical. He was talking lots about Vedanta, Maya, and all Brahman, all other concepts. But in the fourth visit, he wants to talk about religion. He wants to talk about saints. He wants to talk about how to practically practice Vedanta. So he want to have like a Catholicity in various methods in reaching God. So that he wants to bring. So with this, we shall begin the second visit. So he requested Swami Turiyanandaji to accompany him to America, and Turiyanandaji denied because he has different characteristics to Swamiji. He was a very quiet and very soft-hearted monk. He was not able to lecture like Swamiji or be like a blasting character wherever he goes. So he says that America saw a warrior monk, that is he himself, but this time he wants to present a Brahmin monk to the land of America, that he is Swami Turiyanandaji. Now, after 6 months of his initial declaration, June 20th, 1899, he had a very grand farewell in Belur Monastery, the headquarters of Ramakrishna Order, and our mother, Holy Mother, gave a sumptuous feast for Swami Vivekananda, Turiyananda, and Sister Nivedita is going to accompany them. So all three left very happy. Of course, not a happy occasion for them personally, but they were waiting for more messages, more works from Swami. So they left Kolkata, they reached Madras. Now it is Chennai. So they were not allowed to disembark because there was a fear of plague epidemic. So the ship was anchored in Bay of Bengal, and a group of devotees from Chennai or Madras took a small boat, went near Swamiji's ship, and exchanged their regards and love. And then ship moved from there to Colombo. There, Swamiji was allowed to disembark, and Swamiji took Sister Nivedita to visit a boarding school run by a woman. And because he wants to give lots of work to Sister Nivedita, so he wants to practically show what the Eastern life is. So after that, the ship started sailing from Bay of Bengal via Arabian Sea, then towards Europe. Then on the way, Turiyanandaji and the Sister Nivedita had a very educational voyage. Swamiji talked about many things. He was like a living encyclopedia. So he was talking about Ramachandra, characters of Rama, Krishna, Christ, Muhammad, and all the characters, saints and seers of the world. And then he said a very famous statement. He said, "The older I grow, the more everything seems to me to lie in manliness. And this is my gospel." So in this voyage, he said that he liked even the negative characters. He said that the villains or demons what we hear from our stories, even they need to be appreciated because they had that manliness and courage to go against God. So that manliness he loved. So please, I don't want any of you to adopt those characters. But so we don't, it's very difficult to answer. So he's telling from his wider, heartful perspective. Then Swamiji said, it is selfishness that we must seek to eliminate. So that was a major message during that. Then the ship continued to Aden and then Naples and France, and then finally arriving in London. Then in London, Sister Nivedita has to stay back because she has to attend a marriage or something. Then Turiyanandaji and Swamiji left to New York. So they arrived in New York around August 1899. And then they went to Ridgely Manor. They were hosted by Mr. and Mrs. Leggett. So Swamiji was comfortably, happily staying there for 2.5 months. During that time, Sister Nivedita arrived to US and she joined with Swamiji and Turiyanandaji in Ridgely Manor in New York. And on September 21st, she wore the nun garb, that is Sister Nivedita. That's just one of the important incidents. Then after that, Swamiji returned to New York. And there he gave a lecture. In that lecture, there's one interesting incident happened. Swamiji was talking and giving a beautiful lecture. And all of a sudden, he stopped and left the pulpit. And he left the whole auditorium and he was just walking towards his home. And then the audience were upset. So why did he just stop and just left the pulpit and did not even have courtesy to convey anything? So he just left. Then one of his friends asked Swamiji, why had he cut short the lecture? Then Swamiji replied, he had too much power and noticed that the audience were becoming so absorbed in his ideas that they were losing their own individualities. He did not wish to change or destroy anyone's individuality. So look at the Catholicism. It's not that what I believe that each and every one have to follow. No. The individuality is actually given importance, and then all individuals together is the unity. So that he is trying to mention in that through that incident. Then Swamiji left for LA, that's Los Angeles by train. So that's so he leaves the eastern side of the country and he comes to the our side of the country. So he goes to LA. That happens on 30th November 1899. So he arrives on he leaves on 30th November 1899 from New York by train and arrives in LA on 3rd June, December 1899. So it's almost 4 or 5 days by train. Now we can come by maybe 4 or 5 hours by plane, I would say. So then in LA, he gives a talk on conception of the universe, how to understand this universe and Hindu philosophy. The main message of this lecture is, he says at the end, that the same life welling up in the plant is the life welling up in the individual. So he says the equality. It's not that plants are inferior to us, animals are inferior to us, and we are superior or nothing. So as far as the life, when you take life, then we are all equal. And then there is an organization called Home of Truth in LA.
It is operating for over 125 years, serving the communities of San Francisco, Alameda, and Oakland since 1892. So Swamiji arrived in USA on 1893. So this is just started a year before. And Swamiji was residing in the Home of Truth, LA and Alameda, and taught Raja Yoga. Now this side of our country, they were interested in Raja Yoga lectures than the Bhakti Yoga or Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. So he gave lots of lectures concerning Raja Yoga. So that one incident, interesting incident and funny incident happens in the Home of Truth. So he resides in Home of Truth. So they were his host. So the incident is, the Home of Truth has the rule opposed to tobacco. People are not supposed to smoke. The Swamiji did not know this. And very happily light his pipe and began to puff. And the guests were aghast but kept quiet. When the hostess returned, she flew into a rage and asked the Swamiji if God intended men to smoke, adding that in that case, he would have furnished the human head with a chimney to go out. That was the hostess comment on Swamiji, and listen to what Swamiji is saying. But Swamiji replies, but he has given us the brain to invent a pipe. The Swami said with a smile. And then he was allowed to smoke. So nobody opposed that. Then quickly going further, so on January 4th, 1900 in Los Angeles, Swamiji delivered a famous lecture on work and its secret. So, and the message of that in a brief, reserve unto yourself the power of detaching yourself from everything, however beloved. Let us perfect the means, the end will take care of itself. For the world can be good and pure only if our lives are good and pure. So this is the message in short. Then on 7th, 1900, Swamiji delivered a lecture on Christ the Messenger in Los Angeles and Pasadena. Now I'm going to just briefly explain read out what his message is. The important message is ways in our spiritual progress towards God-centeredness. Now, first he says, God is far away. So that means sitting somewhere in heavens is like idol worship. It is like I'm Oregonian, but America is somewhere far away from me. I'm an Oregonian, but America is far away from me, but I'm dependent on America. Then the second, soul of souls. So in Vedanta, we say Antaryami concept that Jesus says to Jews, I am in my Father, and ye in me, and I in you. So that's the little advanced stage or a second level of growth or expansion from the first. That is, each and every state is dependent on America, and California is dependent on America, and America is in California, and each individually. And then the third, I and my Father are one, and the explanation of that is, and then when the Jews asked him who he was, he declared that he and his Father were one, and the Jews thought that that was blasphemy. What did he mean by that? Then Swamiji says, this has been also told by, Jesus Christ says this. This has been told, this has been also told by your old prophets, or gods, and all of you were children of the Most High. And this is called organic unity. So the moment we say America, it includes all the states, the 50 states of our country in just one word, America. So the individuality of the states are preserved, and at the same time, the unity is upheld by just in one word, America. So this is called an organic unity or an emotional unity. We are Organian, at the same time we are American. And that is between this God and soul, and as we call in Vedanta as Paravasudeva concept. Now, that interesting incident happens immediately after this lecture. Now, Swamiji is going to give us a recipe to cook a beautiful soup. Swamiji, after that, Swamiji was leading that lecture hall, and he was walking very fast. And Miss Meckler was following him. And Swamiji said, "Oh, I found this, I found this, I found this." What is that? Well, then immediately the lecturer was following Swamiji and asked, "Swamiji, what did you find?" "No, I know how to cook milagu tani now." Milagu tani means, milagu, it's a Tamil word. Milagu means peppercorn, and the tani means soup. So it is soup made out of peppercorns. So Swamiji could recall how to make this. In those days, people were traveling via ship. So this milagu tani is a good neutralizer. So when there is so much, seasickness comes and people throw out, the nauseatic feelings are there. So they make this soup to neutralize that sensation. So its actual recipe is, I can tell you later, but it is a mixture of some tamarind solution and this some cumin seeds and peppercorn and some bay leaves. I don't know whether bay leaves were available in California at that time during Swamiji's time, but he says that he got those bay leaves and he was interested to make that. It's quite spicy, and very nice. And if Swamiji would have made, I'm sure he would have made it super hot, super spicy. Now in Pasadena, he gives lectures on the Mahabharata, Buddhistic India, great teachers of the world, story of Jada Bharata, the story of Prahlada, my life and mission, the way to the realization of a universal religion. Now he goes to San Francisco. Now in San Francisco, he delivers an important lecture, the ideal of a universal religion. Then after that, after a few months, in San Francisco, he delivers another important lecture, is the Vedanta the future of religion? Now, this is a very important lecture because it's going to define how to understand Vedanta for our future. So I'm just going to read the excerpts from that. So kindly bear with me. Swamiji declares, what is Vedanta? Swamiji says, God in Vedanta is impersonal. That means it is the democratic God that Vedanta teaches. So we have a government, but the government is impersonal. So that's what he means by impersonal. Yet it is more powerful than any monarchy in the world. So we all know what's the difference between a monarchy government and the democratic government. So as a mere person separated from powerful, sorry, I need to wear my spectacles. Yes, I'm fine now. As a mere person separated from others, we are nothing. but as an impersonal unit of the nation that rules itself. We are tremendous. We are all one in the government. You are a tremendous power. But what exactly is the power? Each man and woman is the power. There is no king. I see everybody equally the same. Vedanta is just that. Vedanta formulates not universal brotherhood, but universal oneness. I am the same as any other man or any animal, good, bad, anything. It is one body, one mind, one soul throughout. Spirit never dies. There is no death anywhere. Not even for the body. Not even the mind dies. How can even the body die? One leaf may fall. Does the tree die? The universe is my body. See how it continues. All minds are mine. With all feet I walk. Through all mouths I speak. In everybody I reside. Immortality is knowing ourselves as one with all. Living in all bodies, perceiving through all minds. We are bound to feel in other bodies than this one. Vedanta does not say, give it up. Says, transcend it. Transcend it. No need of asceticism. Better would be the enjoyment of two bodies. Better three. Living in more bodies than one. When I can enjoy through the whole universe is my body. The whole universe is one existence. There cannot be anything else. Out of diversities, we are all going towards this universal existence. Families into tribes, tribes into races, races into nations, and nations into humanity. This is the realization of oneness. Spirit worshipped by spirit. So this is the organic unity of God and universe as qualitative inseparability. This is my interpretation. So this I'm just saying from my own word. Organic unity of God or spirits and universe as qualitative inseparability. Traditional Vedanta says that universe is an elusive appearance of the spirit. Swamiji states that the universe is qualitative appearance of one spirit or Brahma. This is what today quantum entanglement really declares to the world. So during his stay in San Francisco, Swamiji gave lectures on Muhammad and his message, the goal, concentration of mind, discipleship, science of breathing, Buddha's message to the world, the way to salvation, ideals of India, Krishna's message to the world, and he taught Gita in this part of our country. So on 14th April 1900, Swamiji founded San Francisco Center and requested Swami Turiyanandaji to join him from west, from the eastern part. So he was actually giving lectures in the eastern side of the country. And then on 30th Wednesday, 1900, this May 1900, Swamiji left the western side, that's our side of USA, to the eastern side, New York. And Swamiji visited Detroit on his way. Then on July 20th, 1900, sailed for Paris and he left America. And Swamiji arrived in USA in the mid-August of 1899 and left America on July 20th, 1900. So he stayed less than 12 months in USA on his second visit. So with this, I conclude.
Thank you, Devishani. First, a snippet. In Sydney, we both went there to see the vessel of Cook, James Cook or someone, who traveled to Australia for the first time. So there first we read about Mulagatan soup. So very interesting. And then say two more things happened that so many things happened, but very important. Swamiji's friends, especially E.T. Study and also Kripananda, left Swamiji. Those who were very dependable, but that created some trouble also. And secondly, many people also helped Swamiji in the second visit. So one more significant thing happened because of nervousness of Swamiji. His direct disciples, Swami Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciples suffered a lot. Because Swamiji was nervous, he used to blast them, literally. And we can see some letters also. So in those circumstances, gradually he could understand, he could detach himself. So in second visit that happened, he was detaching himself from this world. Enough is enough. Now I should not worry about the things of the world. Let things happen in its own course. And that is why he did not want even to shape others. That's why he left. And somebody said, maybe people can think that you have forgotten your topic. That's why you left that topic. He said, let people think whatever they want to. But I don't want to meddle the growth of individuals. Let them grow gradually. Because that is natural. So these things happen. So now let us conclude, and before that we'll have a vote of thanks. But let us remind ourselves, he becomes the meeting point, not only of East and West, but also of past and future. If the many and the one be indeed the same, as Swamiji said, that when we see through mind and the instruments, sense instruments, we see the same reality as many. So if the many and the one be indeed the same reality, then it is not all modes of worship alone, but equally all modes of work, all modes of struggle, all modes of creation, which are paths of realization. No distinction henceforth between sacred and secular. To labor is to pray, to conquer is to renounce. Life is itself religion. To have and to hold is as stern a trust as to quit and to avoid. So this is the message of Swamiji, and what is that each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity. So we are divine in this essence. Our manifestations may be different, but gradually we are to outgrow those differences and find that unity. By controlling nature, external and internal, do this by work. Only thing, work is not detrimental, only its attitude should be there. Similarly, all other means are also, it should be oriented to God. So do this by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy. By one or more or all of these and be free. So freedom, that should not be any bondage. That freedom should be felt. Then it is okay. So with this message of Swamiji, now let me request Uwe to propose the vote of thanks.
Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
On behalf of the Vedanta Society of Portland, I'm glad to be standing here to express my vote of thanks for all participants in this devotees meet. A heartfelt thank you for your offerings of prayers, songs, and reading of excerpts in remembrance of Swami Vivekananda and his teachings he brought to the West. I'm grateful for all the tireless work of our devotees, Swamis, and most of all, Holy Mother and Sri Ramakrishna, who inspire us daily to choose reality over illusion, freedom over bondage, and to awake to our oneness with the Absolute. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. We are about 1 hour behind us. So, Swami, it happens in San Francisco. One day he was supposed to reach at particular time, but he was not there. The usherer went few times and he found no trace of Swami. After half an hour, then Swamiji was strolling in his own pace. Then he said, Swami, it's time. I live in eternity, don't worry. And actually, when he was introducing, he felt that he was Pygmy in front of him. Anyway, but we have to leave, we have to honor time. It is time for a closing song by Paul Godwin. After that, festival. After that, we offer class. The class are kept there, offer to Sri Ramakrishna. And one, we are expanding. Transferring life, contrasting death. So Swami Vivekananda will give talks second Wednesday.
First and third Wednesday.
First and third Wednesday. So to location and location's place or some other places.
Basically for west part of the
West part of. Because you know this Willamette River divides us, and people who live the other side, it is it's a different country. So anyway, so those who want to join, most welcome. And then after this, we have Partla plus one Prasad. All are welcome to join. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. 6:32. And thank you very much for your participation. Yes, right. And this song is very important. You know, Swamiji composed this song, and our friend Paul has given a presentation. You can see how he did this.
Yeah, I'd love to just say it literally like 2 words about this song. It is from the epic poem by Swamiji, Song of the Sannyasins. And it's an epic poem. There's like 7 or I don't know, many verses. And whoa, it's got a reverb. Anyway, but so this was, you know, edited, and basically it's all Swamiji, but trying to make it rhyme when it could. And so I have a little band in my phone, so I will hit the button and I'll be right back. So the mic I don't. So I'll just. And if you can see, there's Swamiji. So you know it's a Swamiji song. All right, let's see what we got. Oh yeah. Any words?
Sinhala sanyasin bo se ho tasato and sanyasin bo se ho himself be free without a name in his mind, dreaming all his dream. He appears as nature and soul. No, you are that. No, you are that sannyasi symbol. Sing high that little sannyasi symbol. Say oh, that's that oh, that's that oh. And never yield sannyasi symbol. Say oh, that's that oh, that's that oh. Strike off your chains, bonds that bind you down, shining gold, the darker base of ore. This thirst for life forever quenched, it drags from birth to death and death to birth. He conquers all who come to himself. Sannyasi symbol, say oh, that's it, that's it. And never yield sannyasi symbol, say oh, that's it, that's it. Sing high that note, sannyasi symbol, say oh, that's it. That's it. And never yield sannyasi symbol, say oh, that's it. That's it. Thank you, Swami.
Thank you very much. Please join us. The potluck lunch.
We can just make a line.
I just want to give a clarification on the basically there was some questions.
Yeah.
So basically this will happen on the west part of the town. So it will, depending on who is interested, you can host it in their home. So it is not only for my home. Like initially we are starting with my home, the first one. The next one, depending on whoever is interested, we will be having in their home. Until then every Wednesday, 6:30 to not every Wednesday, first Wednesday and third Wednesday, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Anybody who is interested can host it, and everyone is welcome. It is not only for the people who are on the west part, the people who are on the east part also can come if they can drive and come to the address. And we will publish, like there will be a circular coming up on Sunday, previous Sunday, so that it is the message goes to all the devotees of the society. So that email will have the address, and also we have WhatsApp group. So if you give me your phone number, I will add your phone number to the WhatsApp group, and then we will publish the what address that particular week we are having such. So these are the things. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, Swami Vivekananda, and Neeladri is another volunteer who is helping us organizing. Neeladri is not here today. Thank you.